Welcome back to Cloud AI Nexus 360. In this episode, we are going to illustrate the AWS backbone of Lux Search, the serverless infrastructure that powers our AI travel assistant. Every request from the browser to our agents and back rides on this backbone. By the end, you understand the core AWS services, the API gateway, Lambda, identity and access management, referred to as IAM, AWS Secrets Manager, and AWS Cloud Development Kit, CDK, and how they all come together into a secure, scalable system. Let's start with the serverless infrastructure. Serverless means you don't manage servers. You just deploy code, and AWS runs it on demand. You only pay when it runs. It scales automatically with traffic. This is often referred to as horizontal scaling. For Lux Search, serverless is a perfect fit. Some days, maybe hundreds people search for hotels. Other days, 1,000 people might search for hotels. With serverless, our cost matches demand, and we don't waste time patching servers. Before we dive into Log Search, here are the AWS services we're going to be using. We're using the Amazon API Gateway, AWS Lambda, AWS IAM, AWS Secrets Manager, and AWS CDK, the Cloud Development Kit. Amazon API Gateway is a fully managed service that acts as a front door for applications, securely receiving and routing HTTPS requests to backend services, the likes of Lambda or set functions, or even DynamoDB. It supports features like request validation, throttling, caching, and authentication. AWS Lambda is a serverless compute service that executes code in response to events. Functions run in managed, isolated environments with automatic scaling, concurrency, control, and millisecond billing. No server management is required. AWS IAM, which is the identity and access management, the security backbone of AWS, providing fine-grained permissions and policies to define who, users, roles, or services can access what resources, the APIs, controls what actions each Lambda function or service is authorized to perform. AWS Secrets Manager, a fully managed service that securely stores and rotates and retrieves secrets, example API keys, database credentials, auth tokens, integrates directly with Lambda and other AWS services to eliminate hard coding sensitive values. AWS CDK, which is the Cloud Development Kit, is an open source infrastructure as code framework that lets you define AWS resources in familiar programming languages like the likes of Python, TypeScript, Java, etc. It synthesizes into AWS CloudFormation templates, enabling consistent, repeatable deployments within a single command. Here's the log search request journey. A user types in a search, the API gateway receives it, the API gateway calls the Lambda orchestrator, which happens to be the MCP server, which coordinates the agent Lambdas, like hotel agent or budget agent, etc. Those agents talk to APIs like Amadeus, the travel API, process results, and return them. Finally, the orchestrator sends the results back through the API gateway to the browser. One clean loop, start to finish. Let's start at the front door, the Amazon API Gateway. API Gateway is a fully managed service for building and managing APIs. It handles routing, authentication, throttling, scaling. For Lux Search, we use the HTTP API flavor, which is faster and cheaper than the REST API and perfect for Lambda integrations. You can see the code snippet here with the configurations which have been defined. Next up is our AWS Lambda, our compute engine. Lambda is an event-driven serverless compute. You upload code and AWS runs it only when triggered. In Lux Search, we have the orchestrator Lambda, which is the MCP server. We have the hotel agent, the budget agent, etc. Each Lambda is small, focused, and scaled independently. The modular design keeps Lux Search resilient. You can actually see the context in terms of what has been defined as per the runtime, which is the type of language in terms of programming language, the handler which has been defined, the Lambda handler, the timeout durations in seconds, the memory size, etc., and the environment. By default, Lambda functions are usually isolated. One Lambda can just call another unless you explicitly allow for it to happen. The orchestrator needs to know which agents it can call. We pass the function names as environmental variables and explicitly grant invoke permissions with our IAM. By default, this helps with wiring or stringing up the Lambdas together. You can see the environmental variables in relation to the orchestrator.add environment, the hotel underscore function. The orchestrator Lambda is given the name of the agent Lambda in its environment. So this actually means that inside the orchestrator code, it can read the hotel function to which the Lambda function is invoked. It's like passing someone a phone number and now they know who to call. In relation to the IAM permissions, you can see that even if the orchestrator knows the name, AWS wouldn't let it call another Lambda unless it has a permission. Hence, the hotel function grant underscore invoke orchestrator.role. This gives the orchestrator IAM role permission to invoke the hotel agent. Now it is like saying this person is allowed to dial that number. The overall result here is that the orchestrator can securely call the hotel agent or any other agent or Lambda that is wired in the same way. IAM, or Identity and Access Management, is AWS Security Guard. IAM roles define what a Lambda can and can't do. In Lux Search, we use the principle of least privilege. The orchestrator can invoke agents and call Bedrock models. Hotel agent can fetch secrets and talk to Amadeus API. Budget agent doesn't touch APIs at all. This way, no Lambda has unnecessary power. You can obviously see the code snippet there in relation to the Bedrock SSM, which obviously we've previously mentioned that the invoke ID model is stored within systems manager. And we basically get that model ID in respect to the various models which we've used from Amazon Bedrock stored in the SSM. The orchestrator also, we add the role in terms of the policy in relation to the Bedrock SSM. Credentials are usually sensitive, and hand-coding API keys is like wiring your PIN on your debit card. Instead, we basically use AWS Secrets Manager. This allows us to store credentials securely, supports rotation, although that's not applicable in this case, and logs access. In Lux Search, only the hotel agent is granted access to the Amadeus secrets, which is stored in Secrets Manager. There's other secrets as well, like the Google Images API, which is also stored in AWS Secrets. The code snippet is basically self-explanatory in this context, in terms of how the layout and of how the credentials have been stored. Thank you. Alternables, retries, timeouts, caps, they live in a single environmental dictionary. And that is contained within the Lux stack.py file. This centralizes configuration, it keeps the code clean and makes deployment consistent across a variety of environments if we wanted to deploy it in an enterprise manner, whether that be dev, test, or production. You could see some of the environmental variables here, like say the number of hotels that could be returned back, put a cap there. In terms of the timeout, the buffer, which is 3,000 seconds, etc., as well as the environment, the Amadeus credentials, etc. So this is defined sort of globally to allow for consistency in terms of behavior across the estate. Finally, AWS CDK, the Cloud Development Kit. CDK lets us define infrastructure in Python code. Under the hood, CDK synthesizes into CloudFormation templates AWS's native infrastructure as code system. This means with one command, CDK deploy, we can fully get a reproducible stack with a variety of resources, the likes of API Gateway, Lambdas, IAM roles, secrets, all wired together. No manual console clicking is allowed. So to recap, serverless gives us scalability, cost efficiency, and we don't have any heavy lifting as there are no servers to manage. The API gateway is our secure front door. Lambda provides modularity in terms of compute on demand. IAM, which is identity and access management, enforces least privilege access across the estate in relation to the particular application. Secrets Manager provides security of our credentialing with a vault to save our API keys, etc. And lastly, CDK, which is a combination of cloud development kits which synthesizes into CloudFormation templates. This provides us the capability to define every single thing as code. That is the overall AWS backbone for Lux Search. In the next episode, we'll dive into Amazon Bedrock integration and how that was leveraged for the Lux Search use case. Please like and subscribe to the channel as we continue to build our Lux Search AI travel assistant. Thank you.